The Monday Maydayology podcast by Hasty Fire Products, home of the Hasty Rescue Strap, the game-changing rapid intervention tool. All right, welcome back to another episode of the Monday Maydayology podcast. And today I have with me Brandon Cory from Michigan. He's got 15 years in the fire department, and he works currently for the city of Marquette in Michigan as a firefighter on Engine 54. He is RIT Under Fire certified and an author of a chapter in a book called 30 Fires You Must Know, which I don't know about that book, so that's now on my list of things to get. And he's also the vice president of Great Lakes Hot. So, Brandon, thanks for joining me.
Yeah, thanks for having me on. You'll definitely have to check out that book. Chief Frank Lieb and Chief Billy Goldfeder put that together. Came out this year. It's 30 fires that they thought everyone should know. Met Chief a couple years ago when I was teaching at Firehouse Expo. He heard about this story and wanted to get me in that. It'll be about the incident we talked about today, but there's a lot of other good fires in there. Hackensack, Brett Tarver, all the big fires that we learned about back in the day coming through the fire service. They just wanted to get into one spot because they're going around, and some of these newer guys coming in had never heard of Hackensack and things like that. So they wanted to get them all in one place, and just had the honor and privilege to be able to write a chapter in that book.
Yeah, that's great, man. I'm actually not a big reader. I know that's kind of taboo in today's fire service. I know everybody likes to read books, but mine's an attention thing, man. I start sitting down to read, and I'm reading every word on the page, but my mind is elsewhere. So I'm more of an audiobook guy, but I've been trying recently to get more books and actually try to read them at least a little bit. So that's on the list. I just got that book of search, and I made a joke on social media, but I said I'm really glad they included pictures because it helps somebody like me stay focused. So.
Well, I'm 100% right there with you. I got like a stack of books over the last couple of years of just people that I know or different things, and same thing. It takes me a while to get through them.
All right, cool. So we're going to talk about an incident that happened March 13th of 2020. It was a Mayday and line of duty death that you were involved in. And before we get to that, is there anything else you want to elaborate on as far as what you want the audience to know about you? Or if there's not, then we can get started with how you got into the fire service.
No, I think you pretty much, hit it with the Great Lakes Hot / that goes hand in hand with being part of Build Your Culture also. So, but no, you hit it pretty well right there.
Cool. All right. So what got you in?
So I kind of grew up in the fire service. My dad was part of our hometown volunteer department. Growing up, he became the chief and still is the chief. He's been in the fire service between 40 and 45 years, somewhere in there. I forget the exact number. So I kind of grew up around it. He wasn't career, but still around the firehouse all the time, just grew up with it. So when I finally became of age in the state that I could apply for it, never said anything to him, but handed in my application, and they voted yes. It was a surprise to him. He didn't think I had any interest in it, because I was going to college at the time to become an athletic trainer, growing up playing sports. Sounded like a good path for me. But like we talked about, not really a reader or anything, so college didn't really pan out for me. I don't know, it just wasn't the right fit for me. Didn't really like the whole classroom setting a whole lot at that time. So I decided I would take a break from that, join our volunteer department, got into that, and then I just fell even more in love with it. Got hooked right away. Spent 10 years with that department, making up all the way to rank of lieutenant before leaving there for my full-time spot at Marquette City. And then I think it was about 4 or 5 years after I got certified, I joined our county rescue team. So it's through our sheriff's department here in Marquette County. We do all the tech rescue, vehicle extrication for certain areas, but then pretty much for our whole county, we are assigned right away auto aid, RIT for any structure fire.
Gotcha.
So, Kind
So
of like a
how
volunteer department, but we were technically part-time deputies, but it was ran like a volunteer paid on-call department.
Gotcha. So how how far would you travel as part of the county RIT team?
Pretty far actually. So Marquette County, landmass wise, is one of the, I think, top two landmass wise biggest counties this side of the Mississippi. Um, so it could be anywhere from 5 minute travel time all the way up to 45 minutes to an hour, depending on where it is. So it could all vary. Most of the time it was, in that 10 to 30 minute range, but there are some parts that are about an hour for us.
It's an interesting concept for me, and I know there's various places around the country that do it this way, where you have kind of a regional RIT team.
Mm-hmm.
But in my area, the Mid Atlantic, that Metro DC kind of area, most of us we tend to have it as just part of an initial assignment, right? So we
Mm-hmm.
add an engine company. Every county around here is a little bit different, but it's roughly the same idea where it's everybody is a RIT team for somebody, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I guess it was a couple years ago I found out more. Actually, it was probably when I started traveling to teach, when I started getting outside of my area and learning how the rest of the country does stuff. Um,
Mm-hmm.
I didn't realize that the regional RIT team was really such a big thing, and it's a very
Yeah.
interesting concept to me. So that's pretty
Yeah.
cool.
And it's actually kind of cool to bounce off that is the full-time department I'm on now covers the other little part of our county that the county doesn't rescue team doesn't go to. So I went from one RIT department to the next. So for me, that's awesome. I obviously very passionate about RIT, so to be able to be on the two county or departments in our county, is very awesome for me.
Yeah. So that's one of the questions I like to ask people who've been through this stuff, which it sounds like your answer is going to be yes, and you can elaborate on it. But
Mm-hmm.
so before this incident, you had obviously some background in RIT training and stuff like that, and it also said you're RIT Under Fire certified. So can you
Mm-hmm.
talk about any of that?
Yeah, so obviously before this incident, had good training. Wouldn't say it was the greatest or the best, but we did from what we knew before. It was good training. We did it a couple years and all that, and um, but could have been better. Absolutely, training can always be better. But after the incident, the RIT Under Fire is through IFSI, the Illinois Fire Safety Institute. They invited me to come down there. I always jokingly say I went through it 1.5 times. The first time I was down there, I got hurt. I didn't get to finish it.
Oh,
Um, but it was actually kind of somewhat of a blessing in disguise because it was a 9 hour drive for me. So after I got out of the ER, I went back to him like, hey, can I just stay for the rest of the time just to see all this stuff? What else can I help out with? Because I don't want to, just leave 9 hours. If there's something I can do here, still learn, which found out later I was the first one out of that program, and they've been doing it for years to ever ask to stay after being hurt. So what was kind of cool with that is I started helping out, still stayed with my RIT crew that I was assigned with, went to each station. Um, I joke I was kind of like their trainer at that time. I carried their water, their snacks, their extra bottles, as much as I could do to help them out. But when they're going through their scenarios, I got to sit with like Chief Bob Hoff, Chief George Healy from FDNY, some other great incident commanders, and run the boards with them and all that, and learned a lot from them on that aspect too, which was great. They kind of do a little coining slash graduation ceremony at the end. Everyone that finishes gets a coin that only you get from there. Was the last one to go through just because I wanted to shake all the instructors' hands, and I got to the guy that runs it, and he tried to hand me a coin, and I said, "What's this?" He's like, "Well, again, you were the first person to ever do this. In our eyes, we all talk. You still deserve this." I'm like, I appreciate it, but I don't feel like I did. Can you hold on to that me, and I'll come back and I'll earn it. I wanted to finish it, with everyone. So I got all healed up from that. Went back a few months later, and thankfully, was able to finish that program. Um, Anyone that wants to get better at RIT, better at just basic firefighting, better at knowing their limitations, I would highly recommend this class. Um, it's the best worst week you're ever going to have in your career. Um, it's going to suck during it, but after it, you'll look back and you learn so much. I mean, you're burning 6 to 8 times a day with other skill sessions in between, but you'll learn a skill, and later after that, you'll do a smaller scenario under live fire, and then the scenarios just keep adding and adding. So you're putting in the work day in and day out. If you look at their syllabus, it says, the typical 8-hour days. Yeah, we're there for 12, 14-hour days. Which is great. They have, they're part of the college curriculum, so they have to have the syllabus, all the stuff and lays out. But, if they're on a time constraint, a lot of people won't be able to hit some of this. So they have their 4 stations in the morning. You break for an hour lunch. You have 4 stations in the afternoon. And however long it takes you to get through everyone to get through the 4 stations, that's the day.
Yeah.
So they're not taken away on a time constraint that you do get in some trainings, that you might not get the sets and reps or the ability to do this. They're like, yeah, we're not worrying about that. We want you guys to get better. So however long it takes you in the morning to get through these 4 sessions, take that hour break, and then come back and do that, help clean up, and then you get to go for the day. Yeah. So depending on the class size and everything, it could be, a 10-hour day. But both times I was there, they're a little bit bigger classes, and we're there 12, 14 hours a day.
Yeah, it seems like a really awesome program. I'm not sure, I can't remember if you hit on it at the beginning or not, but for the listeners who aren't familiar with it, it is a 5-day, correct? 5-day course, and it's live fire and live victims. At least sometimes there's live victims. The instructors act as victims for all the RIT scenarios. I actually took the 8-hour version of it at FDIC a couple of years ago, and just that 8 hours was really incredible, and I have been so intrigued, and it is on my list of classes to take at some point whenever I get the time and money to do it. I definitely want to go back and take the 5-day class, because it is incredible what they've built there.
Yeah, and they actually just started something last year. So they have the RIT technician, which is still your 5-day course, but then they changed it up a little bit. Now the true RIT Under Fire, if you look on their website, that's a 4-day class. So they added that. Right now they're just doing it in December to help people coming from outside the state, to give you that Friday as a travel day, the full travel day, to try to get back to still have a full weekend or something with your family before having to go back on shift.
Gotcha.
And that, but it's still the 5-day program, just in the 4-day. I know how they kind of finagled it and were able to do that, but I don't want to give out the secrets for that.
Yeah. Don't give it away. Don't give it away. Definitely highly recommended training, man. I can't wait to eventually go take it. Cool. So you've got a fairly extensive background in RIT then, even before this incident happened?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. When I got on the county rescue team, it was one thing that I was always kind of drawn to. Just like that, it's hard work and everything. The guy that was running it was one of my mentors, even starting out. He was on a different volunteer department, but someone that's helped me throughout my whole career. So kind of just started tagging along, bugging him to have me, help with the trainings and just get as much as knowledge as I can with it. And so started doing that. So had a good understanding, I felt, after it or before it. After the incident, realized there was still a lot of work to do. But I don't think the training that we had before, or that I had before, failed me in the incident. It was just stuff. You train, you go through something, you realize there's more stuff to work on.
Cool. So let's get into it, man. Give me whatever lead up you got, if you have anything, and then we'll talk about just give us your story. What happened that day?
Yeah. So it was March 13th, 2020. It was a old Air Force base that we were all called out to for a structure fire. It was a duplex split, so 2 units. and it was a split level. You look at it from the front of it, it kind of looks just like a two ranch, but there was like 5 stairs going up to the bedrooms. So I still call it a split level, even though it doesn't look like our true traditional split levels. So called around 9:30, 9:45, I believe, for a structure fire in Forsyth Township or Gwynn area. For anyone that does know the UP, it was in that area. So their department was dispatched, us as the county rescue team for RIT, and then another close township to them was called for manpower and water supply. So where we were at, we had about a 30-ish, 20 to 30 minute response from where our station at to where the fire was. So one nice thing kind of doing with a little bit farther away than that is you kind of get that first arriving on scene report. You can kind of start coming up with a little bit of a plan. So when we were paged out, we were dispatched obviously for a structure fire, and that everyone was out of the structure. So there's a mom and 2 kids living there. Their first arriving truck arrived on scene. Their first IC reported fire through the roof, fully involved. So a few of us that were in the back of our truck started talking, in our mindset that fully involved means we can't get in there whatsoever. There's not an inch of space in that structure that we can enter. So like, all right, this is obviously going to be defensive operations. Changes our mindset a little bit. Obviously, we don't think anyone's going to be in there. A little bit, I guess the best way to say it, a little bit easier on the RIT side. Obviously, there still could be something happens that a RIT team's needed, but nothing on the inside, so hopefully a little bit easier for us. So we arrive on scene. We parked about 4 or 5 houses down on a different street, and you could see the glow when we got off the truck. So again, we're thinking, all right, obviously definitely through the roof. Probably just everyone would kind of be, hanging in the yard, spraying some water and everything. We start walking up. We didn't have our full RIT complement of tools, if you want to say. One of our drivers, because we were kind of short that day, he was grabbing the RIT pack and a couple other things. But myself, our 2 other partners, we all had a tool. And then my dad was actually our operations chief for, as we call him, for this department. So he was in charge of it. He was there that day, so he was our lead officer. So the 4 of us make it up to their assistant chief that was at the front door. Other weird thing with these houses is you entered from the side. So they had a driveway coming up to a small garage, and the front door is actually on the B side of the house. So he was standing there. When we're walking up, we could see 2 people spraying water from the A side. And I kind of looked down, and I traced one line going to them, and I traced another line, kept on watching it, and it went right into the front door. I'm like, well, that changes things. So kind of did a better little size up right there. The structure definitely wasn't fully involved, but it was still through the roof. So we made contact with that assistant chief, because now we definitely need to know where people are, what they're doing, how many people are in the structure, and everything. So we have that idea with the RIT team. We get with him. He says there's 2 people inside the structure. We look in that front door on the B side. You could see them right at kind of the bottom of the stairs spraying water. Right next to the B side door was a bedroom window that had already broke, and there was some fire coming through it. Later on, we found that was the room of origin. So that whole top floor where all the bedrooms were, that was pretty much all fully involved from what we could see. And on the C side, it did self-vent through the roof. So we're still trying to get an idea of what was going on. 2 of our members were going to start doing our 360, and I was just kind of doing my own little size up from right there. At that point, Captain Ben Lauren came up, because he was one of the first ones that had entered the building, but he had already came out because him and his partner needed a bottle change. So just trying to talk to him, like, hey, how is the layout of this house? Just trying to get an idea in case we do have to go in. talking to him, what he saw, the conditions they had, and everything, and all that. Talked with him. His partner finally came up. The other two that were in, they were low on air, or one of them was low on air. So Ben and his partner were going to be the next ones going in. So got to talk to him, one last time. Watch them grab the nozzle, go into that structure. Again, before I started my 360, kind of just watched them. They were at the bottom of the stairs, spraying water up into the second floor. Me personally, I was good with that because there's no fire below them, and also they're standing on a concrete slab. So the front part of this house was all on a concrete slab. Because I seen it after, the incident, and even the other times when I talk about this and show pictures, they're like, why were people even in there? All this stuff. It's like, well, they were in a place that wasn't taken over by fire, and they're trying to stop fire spread. Yes, one part of the house was pretty much a total loss, but part of it wasn't. We still want to try to, protect as much property as we can as fire departments, because family still had pictures, different things in their living rooms, everything. So they're still trying to protect that. Totally good with that. So looked at my dad, told him I was going to start doing my 360, catch up with the other guys, get all of our eyes all on that house. As I was starting to walk around the garage, I looked one more time, and I could not see Ben or his partner. And I could see that they had made their way up to the second floor. Didn't really think of anything about it at the time. Just like, all right, noting that in my back of my head, now they're up there. And as I started turning the corner, I could hear their assistant chief say, Ben, did you, go ahead, or something on the radio. Not 100% sure exactly what he said, just because stuff coming after that, you lose some of that
Yeah.
ideas of what. But I remember him saying something over the radio, and Ben's name. And for some reason, I stopped dead in my tracks, and like the hair on the back of your neck, stood up. And then at that point, his partner that was inside came running out that front door or side door, yelling for help. At that moment, didn't think anything, twice. Me and my partner that was with me at that time, we both, dropped down to our knees and got masked up and got right in there. Thankfully, from where that front door was and the stairs was maybe only 5 feet, we'll say. So it wasn't far where we had to go to find him. Because when we were going in, he said he's right at the top of the stairs. So we go in, I turn up the stairs, and I see him, kind of laying. It looked like he was laying down. Still didn't know exactly what was going on. So made contact with him, and then realized he was in a hole through the floor. So kind of wrapped my right arm around him. He was still with us, still breathing, still fighting. Told him, hey, I'm here with you. My other partner came up there. I grabbed the back of his bottle, one side of his shoulder strap. My partner grabbed his other shoulder strap, and we went to go lift him up. Because, we train on it all the time. Someone threw a hole in the floor, you grab him and you pull him up. So we went and did that, and he didn't move. Maybe an inch. Didn't budge at all. Like, that's weird. So we kind of moved a little bit. Maybe thought it was just us with how we were angled and pulling and everything. Tried again. Didn't move 1 inch again. So we're both kind of like, all right, got to figure something else out. Well, in my mind, I figured that, one part of the floor was compromised, maybe the rest was. So I just started taking my hand and started banging the floor, seeing what that was. Totally solid. So obviously couldn't break any of that. At that point, my partner's trying to, in our stairwell, hit out the drywall to try to gain more access and more room for us. I do the same thing on my side. The only problem, he was doing it. He was going into a closet. I was going into the room of origin that was splashed over. So as I would try to go in, only lasting there a little bit, just because it was too hot to be in there. At that point, the third member of our team came in to the stairs, and thankfully he's like 6'6", because my partner told him go down in the basement to see what he could figure out, anything down there that was going on, because all the bedrooms were right above the basement. So when he went down there, Ben's partner was down there with him. Ben was actually able to stand on his shoulders to kind of take some weight away a weight away from him. Tried one more time, didn't move again. Our partner that was down in the basement, Rich, he was able to reach up because his SCBA strap was actually below the hole. So he was able to undo that, see if that was what was hanging him up. So he did that. You felt a little bit of weight give. So we're like, oh, okay, perfect. That's what was holding him up. Let's grab him. Let's pull him up. So grabbed his jacket, went to go pull him again, didn't move at all. At that point, kind of felt him go limp a little bit because that whole time leading up to that, he was still trying to push up, help us a little bit. So I got down to his mask again, looked at him, eyes were kind of closed, yelled his name, had no response. His MMR, again, I don't know if at that point if he was still breathing or he wasn't. I just didn't know, couldn't tell if the MMR was engaging or not, so I hit the purge valve. I mean, worst comes to worst, we're giving him a little bit more air, but couldn't tell at that point. At that time, we knew we weren't going to give him up, so decision was made to put him through the rest of the hole. And that also wasn't as easy as it sounds like. We had to take his air pack, his helmet, his mask, his jacket, and literally like push him through the hole. Got him down to the couple guys that were down there. They were able to get him up to the stairs. Met him at the stairs, helped finish and get him up to that first floor. Grabbed him, looked at the doorway with, seemed like 300 people standing right there, all waiting for us. Went to go grab him and move, and I didn't move at all. My body needed a timeout with all that stress and everything going on. I didn't feel that tired, but I had nothing left in the tank at that point, so called for one other member. They were able to get him out, got him onto a backboard, onto the cot, and as they were wheeling up to the ambulance, Forsyth Fire Department, they do run limited advanced life for their ambulance, but I knew they had no paramedics on scene. And as being a paramedic, I made the decision that I'm going to start ripping all my stuff off and get on that ambulance with them to continue this until we can meet up. When the Mayday went out, they started sending crew our way. But at nighttime in our county, we only have two ALS rigs on for the whole county with one on call. One was way out on the other side of the county. So they had one of them in the middle of our county-ish at our state police post. And right as the Mayday came in, our call crew was coming into the hospital. So they were actually coming our way. So I started ditching my gear and everything, meeting them in the ambulance, get him in the ambulance. When they put him on the backboard, they put him face down. It is what it is. Just got to get him there. So we rolled him. At that point, I rolled him, kind of looked at him, and this is where one part, I think a little bit my training had failed me before, is every time we did a RIT scenario, we go find that downed firefighter, we pull them out and everything. What's the first thing that they always do?
Just drop them,
stand
right?
Up. They drop them and they stand right up. Everything's good. Yep. We high five. We talk about it. So in my mind, subconsciously, we got them out. We got them here. We rolled them. That's the end of the scenario. Ben should be standing up. We should be high fiving, talk about what happened. But that didn't happen. So I froze. Not gonna lie, talk about it all the time. I froze. Wasn't for that long, but my brain subconsciously, with all the stress and everything that was going on, I still wasn't in my full thinking brain. I was in the doing brain, so it didn't know what to do because everything that we were taught on before didn't happen. But I was able to snap out of that somewhat quick. I wish I could give a time on how long I froze, but it was a little bit, and then just got into my paramedic mode. Got him on the monitor. One person wanted to stay on scene until ALS got there. Is kind of one of our, per se, protocols with someone in cardiac arrest. I said, screw that. Let's get them and keep going. So got them going. They had a crew of 3 that day on that ambulance, which helped, gave me a good amount of hands in the back. I did pull someone else from one of the fire departments that's EMS also to drive for us. Because one of the other reasons why I wanted to hop in the back, not only just continue my efforts and my job, but that was his hometown ambulance. One of the EMTs that was on there has known him since he was a baby. One was an EMT and just finished his advanced EMT, but was only, a few years, 3-4 years, and the other one was maybe a year. And nothing against them, they all did a great job, helped me out. But again, for me to finish my duties and all that, just felt like I needed to be on there. So I had them in the back with me, which helped me out a lot because I just had one of them start compressions after we got him on the monitor, saw what rhythm he was in, told him to do compressions. And again, not knowing their ambulances perfectly, have ran them with them before, but they were the only department in our county with a Lucas device. So they're like, hey, you want to use Lucas device? Absolutely. So got that all hooked up with Ben. We got an airway in, and we started, trying to meet up with ALS. Eventually met up with them, got our paramedic on board, a great medic in our area. He's been doing it at that point over 20 years. Very calm, cool, collective guy. One of my mentors on the EMS side growing up. His dad and my dad actually did a lot of work together before. So I knew Eric for many, many years. Really happy that he showed up, for me. Just knew we had a great team, had some of the best people, in our area to help with Ben. So we got on there. He asked, hey, what do you need? I told him to intubate Ben for me because we just had a eye gel in at that point. I wanted something more definitive, just knowing that it was probably a crush injury, wanted something more definitive in there to help with that. So he did that. He threw me the drug box and just started our thing. I always talk about this too when I travel and talk about it. I don't know, I can't remember. Are you a paramedic?
I am not a paramedic, no.
Okay. But I'm sure you've been on, cardiac arrests and different things.
Yeah, so there's paramedics in my department. We're all
Mm-hmm.
at least EMTs, and then paramedic school is an option. So
Yeah. Okay.
I'm familiar with it. There's a paramedic. There's actually two paramedics at my firehouse. So one is on a chase unit, and then one rides the paramedic engine with us. So
Yeah, okay.
I'm still pretty familiar, even though I don't actually do the skills.
Yeah, and most people are that sit in the classes and everything. We normally go to grandma and grandpa that's in cardiac arrest. Obviously, we're doing everything we can for them,
Mm-hmm.
everything, with meds, because Ben was in PEA, so not going to shock him, but giving them that epi, the things that we do for PEA. We did that, but again, one of our own working, we went way and above beyond, something that we normally would do. So I knew that he was, in a fire for the second time working. Didn't know if it was a glucose issue, so we gave him D50. We did call our doc on that night. Once I found out for sure, we got him on the phone right away because he was actually a former paramedic down in the Detroit area, now an ER doc. So a great, again, another tool for us because he knows both sides of it. Had him on the phone. We gave him crush injuries, everything that we could think of or the doc could think of. Bouncing things back and forth. In our county, our protocol is to work a cardiac arrest for 30 minutes before we can, ask for, to stop and everything. We went to about the 45-minute mark before that was even brought up. Again, just different from being one of our own, one of truly our family members, and was alive 45 minutes prior to that. But something that I'll never forget at this point. Went through everything, almost all of our drugs, everything else. I'm thinking what else we can do, and I'm at the feet. Eric is still up at the head. After he intubated, he was begging. And I remember just looking up at him, and he had this look on his face. Didn't have to say a word, but to me, it had that look of, hey, I'm here with you. I will sit here, help you. We will run this thing until you're ready, but I think it's time. And I remember just looking at him and kind of like shaking my head like, it's time, right? And he just kind of shakes. He goes, you want to call it? I'm like, I can't. I was like, but if you can do that for me, I will I 100% agree, but I can't do that. And the other thing is, you have to just clear it with his dad, who was following us into the hospital and was outside the ambulance. Uh, so Eric's still on the phone with the doc. Went out, talked with Ben's dad because he was also on the fire department. Uh, they got all that stuff cleared, and we called time of death at that point.
Yeah, that's a lot to unpack. All right. Let me back up a little bit.
Hmm.
Was there ever a formal Mayday call?
Not from Ben.
It was just the guy who ran
So
out and met you at the
yeah,
door. Okay.
yes. So that was kind of the Mayday. We believe he tried to, and that's what I heard the assistant chief trying to hit him on the radio. But with how he was stuck in the hole, um, I just don't think he could get it out. And then from talking to people, my dad after, their assistant chief tried to call it over the radio, but wasn't able to. So my dad was actually the one that called the Mayday over the radio to dispatch and everyone.
So I'm trying to picture this here. So you said he was at the top of the stairs, right?
Yep.
Stuck in a hole. So he was somewhere around waist or lower belly ish area, right? Into the hole.
Yep. Yeah. So it was probably about just a little bit above the belly button. So he was facing the stairs. So you had so when they're at the top of the stairs, they're spraying water, and he said he thought he saw a glow behind him. So when he turned and stepped, that's when he fell. So that's how he was facing the stairs that were technically behind him when he first went up.
Okay.
Um, but he was somewhere between belly button and chest, but it was kind of weird laying forward because his bottle was still up above the hole. So the hole after was burned in between two joists. So I mean, joists are 14 inches on center in between them. Um, but I went back a couple of years after and got measurements, and it was pretty much 13 inches all the way around, with a little bit of a not fully 13 inches on one side because I had a little weird jag um, that you'll be able to see in a few months when I have the pictures and everything. But pretty much it was almost a hole that was 13 inches on each side that he fell through. And
Gotcha.
that's, why it was something different that, normally a hole burns, you fall through, you're stopped because you're holding yourself up. Um, Ben wasn't through the hole fully because he was literally stuck in a hole.
What was the fire conditions like under the stairs there?
So that's where he was originally. So some in a different corner of the house on the BC corner had burnt through. When he went down there, he had some fire originally, put that out, but talking with the guys that were down in there during the Mayday incident, there was no fire.
I'm trying to paint the picture here on why he fell into that spot. So there was a fire.
Hmm.
That part was already knocked, and he was moving up, and the floor was already weakened.
Yep.
Is what I'm gathering. So
Yeah. So obviously after this, dove deep into this to try to figure this out. Um, like we talked about pre-show, NIOSH report was never done because found out after they do have to be invited in. So I took from the couple of reports that our local area did and started diving into this and trying to figure it out. Um, I've talked to a lot of our great names, in the fire service on this, trying to figure out something. I was lucky enough to, about a year after this, be invited to UL for one of their boot camps. Dan Majnikowski was there, Sean Gray, a lot of people that have done a lot of research with us. So I presented this to them and was like, hey, can you guys help me out? Um, Keith Stakes was there too. So we all kind of sat down, and there was really nothing fire behavior wise. There wasn't a flashover, there wasn't any major event that caused this. So this is their best guess, is what happened. Is right at the top of the stairs. Was if you're going up the stairs, to the left was the bedroom or the room of origin, and that was fully flashed and was burning pretty good. You had in front was the roof where it had burned through. So they're thinking from when that window popped, you had an intake there going up to the exhaust out of that room. So you're getting a lot of high heat. And then with that front door open, you have another intake coming in with more
Mm-hmm.
air and then going out. So they think kind of right there just had these superheated gas kind of just formulating right there. And again, right at the top of the stairs is a major walking point. What was spilled there before, to cause some weakness, and then just everything kind of coming together right there just caused it to weaken. Because even the couple years after, when I went back finally with some other people, uh, but you could still walk up there. I mean, it was still a sound floor, no issues other than that hole in that one spot.
Man, that is crazy. So did you ever figure out what exactly it was that he was hung up on, or was he just kind of wedged in between the floor joists?
Yeah, he was just wedged. Again, we thought it was the SCBA belt buckle. He did have some stuff in his pant pockets, but I think it was just the size of the hole and that he was kind of stuck in. A couple other people that I've talked to about this. Aaron Zamzel, who runs Fire Rescue Fitness out of Madison, really good buddies with him, just running some stuff through him. He was asking, he came up right away with how he was, and then how he turned and kind of fell through, almost like a cork in a wine bottle.
Hmm.
Kind of just screwed himself in, and kind of was just all that pressure, size of the hole, our gear. He was just, wedged in there.
So do you think that that contributed to his passing then? Like, or did you ever figure out exactly what it was that made him go unconscious in the first place?
Yeah, so they did an autopsy, and his cause of death was traumatic asphyxiation. So just with how tight that hole was, where he was, kind of everything, he just kind of,
Okay,
suffocated from the inside out. But there's
gotcha.
no underlying heart issues, nothing. I mean, very, very healthy guy. But yeah, it was the traumatic asphyxiation.
Yeah, man, that's heavy. That I can imagine, you know, pretty heartbreaking when you are talking to a guy, and then
Mm-hmm.
it just kind of goes downhill from there. But it sounds like yourself and the rest of your crew had a pretty incredible effort. So sounds to me like you guys did everything you could, and did just about everything right. Has there been anything after that's come out of it that you guys have changed or implemented, um, as far as training or tactics or anything like that?
Not, I mean, not anything super specific from that. Just, better training, a little bit better mindset, I think is the biggest thing. Not taking everything into our game plan until we get there. You know, it's going to be, as I talk about in my class and everything, if you're assigned a RIT, um, there's going to be a Mayday or a RIT scenario at every scene until the scene's deemed done. You always have to be thinking about that in your mind. So that's probably the biggest thing I would say. Because obviously, again, I dive deep into this, try to figure it out, bring it up in all my classes too, and we talk about this. Like, hey, does anyone have any ideas? And other ones are like, hey, what about saws to rip the floor better? Different things like that. And I'm like, great ideas, and it is stuff that we're trying out to bring this training. We're designing props and everything, different ways to do it. But the one big thing that I always leave out in the class until after this is from the time that we entered till the time we got bent out was approximately 9 minutes.
Yeah.
So yes, these tools are great and everything, but now we have that time restraint too. Because the morning after, um, I was actually in my officer class, so I still just wanted to continue to go do that, just to stay in somewhat of normalcy. Didn't really wasn't really physically there that day, but still went. Got asked that day or that morning, like, hey, how long are you guys in there for that? I'm like, I don't know, 30, 40 minutes is what it seemed like to me. And another guy that was in our class was actually the dispatcher that night. And he said, no, it was 9 minutes from time of entry till it was put over the radio that Ben was out. So, um, doesn't mean if this happens again in some area that you'd have more time to be able to get saws and everything. But for our incident, it was that 9 minutes is another thing that plays that timetable.
Yeah, absolutely. I do want to back up just a little bit to the beginning of what you were saying there, where there's going to be a Mayday until there's not, right? Or until
Mm-hmm.
the incident is finished. And this is something that I've been telling my students. And honestly, I haven't really put it out there publicly, and maybe this is something that we should start doing. But you always hear people say, when you're going to a box alarm, expect fire and expect victims. And I think we
Mm-hmm.
should add a third one to that, and it's expect Maydays, right?
Right.
Expect
100%.
it to happen. And so my department, this week we just finished up in some in-service training where we ran our whole department through over the course of 2 weeks doing um, a RIT scenario, and you know, not a crazy scenario, but one of the things, I don't know if you follow him or not, but the firefighting chief on Instagram, Chief
Mm-hmm.
Frank Malta, he's our training chief. He's got a pretty good following, and he had this sign made up that we posted on the building. It's an acquired structure that we have that we were doing the drill in, and it's all this list of proactive things that you can do as RIT, right? Um,
Mm-hmm.
and it's you can do it if it doesn't, and a whole list of things. So he would give this speech before most groups, and it's RIT doesn't have to suck. Obviously we all want to be on the first due line going in, but if you're assigned RIT, it doesn't have to suck. You can find things to do, and expect something to happen. So set yourself up. Soften the building, 360s, everything you can do, right? Set yourself up
Mm-hmm.
so that when that Mayday happens, you're able to react as fast as possible, and you've got the stuff with you to make shit happen when you need to make it happen. So, um,
Oh, I agree 100%. And I
yeah,
think we should add that. Expect fire, expect victims, expect Maydays.
yeah,
Obviously, we don't want that. And there's things that we can work on, be better prepared, hands down, across the board to prevent them. But we need to have that mindset that it's going to happen. Because if we have that in our mind when something does happen, that shock factor uh, will be lessened to us. It'll be kind of in the back of our mind that something happens. But to me, being a proactive RIT team isn't just going throwing ladders, softening buildings, the stuff that everyone knows. It's pre-planning for that major incident.
yeah,
You know, getting into where everyone's at, what they're doing. Okay, what could happen? Have that in the back of your mind. Start talking about that as a RIT team of, okay, we got these guys that are searching the second floor. If this happens, what are we going to do? What if this happens? I know it's kind of morbid to start thinking of bad things that are going to happen to one of our own or multiple one of our own, but we need to. We need to have that. So if something does happen, at least we have somewhat of an idea or maybe of a plan to start. Because most of the time when you're, you know, sent in as RIT, you think you have plan A and you end at plan X once you
yeah,
finally get that firefighter out. Because everything
absolutely.
changes. But part of being proactive is starting to think of what could happen when you're on scene.
Yeah, 100%. You don't want the first time you're thinking about it to be in the moment when a Mayday's been called. So I agree with you
Mm-hmm.
100%. Cool. So we actually didn't talk about this in the beginning, but you're coming to my neck of the woods here in a couple of months in March to
Mm-hmm.
present. What's the name of your presentation?
It's called a RIT, not a checkbox.
RIT, not a checkbox. Perfect. So you're giving this presentation at the Key City Fire Conference, and you're also going to talk about this incident there as well. So, man, I'm looking forward to it. I'm looking forward to meeting you, and I'm hoping with being the co-chair of the conference, I get a little busy at times, but I sit in on as many of the lectures as I can, as long as I'm not pulled away. So I'm really
Yeah.
hoping I'm really hoping I'm able to sit in and listen to it, because I'm definitely interested.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it. Thankful for you guys to bringing me out there, share Ben's story. So yeah, obviously share this. Obviously, we'll have some pictures, a little bit easier to talk about, but then kind of go into my spin off a little bit more of what I think RIT truly is. Um, Pretty much the same with a lot of people, but I just have a couple different takes on it also that I like to share with people and see what people think. So
Yeah, well, that's great, man. I'm glad you're doing it, and I've said it on this podcast before. I've said it on Instagram. I say it to people all the time. The best thing we can do for those that we've lost is to learn from them. So you keep saying his name, right? Captain Ben Lauren. You're doing it for him. So I think it's great, man.
100%. He's not here, so let's honor his name. I say this all the time too, different podcasts, is wherever I'm at, that hopefully whenever I'm done going and speaking about this or other trainings, that everyone in the fire service remembers Captain Ben Lauren and no one ever remembers, Brandon Cory. I want him to have that recognition over me 100%.
That's awesome, bro. Cool. Do you have anything else that you want to add before we end it?
I think that, in a nutshell, covers everything. I know it's kind of hard-hitting, fast stuff, but hopefully this, gets out to people. Anyone ever has any questions, wants to know more, anything, please, don't hesitate to reach out.
Awesome. So where can they find you at if they want to reach out to you?
I'm on Facebook. Can hit me up on Messenger there. They can email me, text me, any of that stuff. Reach out anyway. I'm good with.
All right, Brandon. Thank you very much for joining me, and definitely looking forward to meeting you in March.
Yes, same to you. Again, thanks for having me on and letting me share Ben's story.